Welcome. This is a brief history of the test lab. Please watch it in full screen mode by pressing Alt-Enter, unless of course you happen to have a magnifying glass handy. Testing has come a long way in the few years of this century. Only 10 years ago, a typical test lab looked like this. And in fact, many of them still do, filling an entire room with computers that do nothing but run tests. Then, about 5 years ago, some test labs began to look like this. Today, that room can be used as a daycare center or exercise area or anything instead of a boring old test lab. That was a great leap forward and a major space saver. But we were still limited by the cost of servers that we could afford to buy, maintain, and operate. Until now, that is, when, finally, a test lab looks like this. This is a CloudLab test lab. It exists in thin air on the Amazon cloud, in as many gorgeous cloud backgrounds as you can imagine. All this hardware and software are virtual, from the test machines on the left to the tests they run, and the test data they produce on the schedules they follow. In this thin air world, you can create as many new cloud labs as you need. Just spin up an instance of the CloudLab Core AMI and configure it as if it were a computer in your lab, and then save it in an S3 bucket. This miracle is made possible by the Amazon Virtual Private Cloud. This environment lets you run your EC2 instances inside your own network. In other words, you have your own private, customized version of the CloudLab AMI running securely on your network, just as if it were a computer in your lab. You're looking at 10 times as many computers as we had in a computer lab 10 years ago. But these don't take up any space at all. Moreover, they can do a lot more work than those old real computers. These are running EC2 instances. From your office monitor, you can interact with all of them at once, or zoom into just one and interact with it. Try that in your daycare-sized test lab. Drag and drop tests and test data into any instance or group of instances, and off they go to the races. Do functional testing and performance testing at the same time by running functional tests in parallel. From test labs that filled a room to test labs that filled part of a room, we now have test labs that fill nothing but a browser window. Thanks to Amazon's virtual private cloud, we now have CloudLab instances. They're much more powerful than real computers, so productivity goes high. But the cost of testing goes way down, because it doesn't cost anything to build, store, and maintain these machines.